so glad you've joined us for this week's Wednesday Wisdom. And this week we're going to be looking at a verse from the book Philippians, and it's from chapter 2, verse 3. And I'm reading from the Passion Translation. This verse says, "Be free from pride-filled opinions, for they will only harm your cherished unity. Don't allow self-promotion to hide in your hearts, but in authentic humility, put others first and view others as more important than yourselves." So let's just look at this first part of the verse. It says, "Be free from pride-filled opinions, for they will only harm your cherished unity." Do you ever think that you could do a better job at something than someone else? Do you ever think, I would have done it this way, or I wouldn't ever have done it like that? Have you ever looked at someone you follow on social media and thought, cringe, they look awful, or what they said was so embarrassing? I don't know about you, but I have certainly had those thoughts. In real life and looking at stuff online. I've also gone as far as vocalising those opinions and ended up gossiping about someone, which I'd always end up feeling guilty about afterwards. I find this particularly hard in secondary school, especially within my group of girlfriends. In the second part of this verse, it says that having these pride-filled opinions harms our cherished unity. God actually made us for unity, for being together. We long to be connected and in togetherness with other people. And to cherish something is to deeply love it. And so if we're longing for this connection and to be in togetherness and unity with other people, why do we have these thoughts? We live in a fallen world with an enemy who wants to make us feel insecure. And so we find a strange comfort in putting other people down and somehow think that that will bring us up. But that was never the way God intended. In the second part of the verse, it says, "Don't allow self-promotion to hide in your hearts," which means that these thoughts are going to creep in, and it's up to us to take our thoughts captive and to give them to God before we dwell on them and make them bigger than they started. It's up to us to not allow them into our heads and into our hearts in the first place. Will you let those thoughts stay there, or will you let Jesus take them? That's what he died for, after all, to take away our sin and to bring us into unity with the Father. God's heart is that we are in relationship with him and with each other. And so he loves us and he wants to help us with the things that get in the way of our unity with each other. Have you ever thought that you are meant to do something and you've tried to make it happen before God's timing? That you're called to something great, but you're just rushing ahead of when God says yes. Maybe it's about being head girl or captain of the netball team, or just putting a different version of yourself online because you think that's the right thing to do and you'll look better in front of other people. These aren't all bad things, but if we rush something when God is saying to take our time, or it's not the right time yet, then this is self-promotion. And it's in his strength that we will become all he's made us to be, not in our own strength. So the best thing to do is just to wait on God's timing, and rather than promote ourselves, just let him promote us into the positions that he's called us into. And the last part of the verse says, "But in authentic humility, put others first and view others as more important than yourselves." Authentic humility, what does that mean? To be authentic means to be real and honest. Humility is about putting others first and not bigging ourselves up or trying to put ourselves in the spotlight. There's also a thing called false humility, where we actually put ourselves down so much and look so kind of inwards into ourselves that we can get really down about all the things that we don't like about ourselves. But that was never God's intention either. His desire for us is to love ourselves as much as he loves us. And he loves us so, so much. This brings us to the last part of the verse. view others as more important than yourself. You're worth so much. So could you view other people as even more than that? Remember, you're not always going to get this right, and that's okay, because God's grace is so sufficient, and all He wants for us is to come back to Him and try again. So as you think about this week's devotion, don't worry if some of these things that have come up are things that you do a lot and you have thoughts about people that you'd rather not have. God just wants us to come close to Him, and He will take any guilt that we have and will turn it into something amazing. So next time you have those thoughts, have a little think, could I give that to God instead, rather than letting it grow into something bigger? I hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you soon.